Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show different API endpoint types of REST API provided by AWS API Gateway. Sometimes you may already know these types: regional, edge optimized, and private. I will cover what are those types in depth and usage of these different types. As usual, please like and subscribe if you like this content. It will be really appreciated. Furthermore, if you have any comment, clarification, please comment below. I will get them as needed. Let's get in. Right, I'm in AWS console and let's head into API Gateway and try to create REST API. That is where you can specify the endpoint types. I'm heading to API Gateway. Click on Create API. Once you come to this here, you can select either private. If you go a little bit very down, you can select the private or public. By the way, both selection will be end up with the same screens next. So if I click on the belt, this is where you can specify in the very down the API endpoint type. The default one is set as a regional. You can select the edge optimize and or private. The difference between the private and the rest of the things, so when you select the private, you need to give the VPC endpoint which is already created. Let's dig into more about these three types in details. Right, let's have a look at what is the regional APIs. Let's assume you need to create an API which need to be accessed to a public internet. Then this is one of the option. Here this is our API which is reside in the AWS, which can be accessed from worldwide. People who are from US and people who are from Australia. By the way, our API is hosted in a Sydney region, which is AP Southeast 2. The same time, this API can talk to public APIs, or this API can talk to any AWS services within the same account or different account. So pretty good, right? It serves the purpose. Basically, it's exposed to the public internet and anyone can access this endpoint through the internet. But right, this is a catch. So this API sits inside the Sydney region. So the latency is different based on the client who lives. The client who lives in the USA, they have a high latency because they need to go through the long way to through the internet. But people who are in the Australia, they do have a low latency because the API itself is reside in a Sydney area, so which is in Australia. So that's how the regional APIs work. Using the regional API, the APIs give a good experience to the client who close to the region while still serving worldwide with a bit more latency. So if you want to give a good experience, the same experience to the client who are spread on the worldwide, in example for the USA, the next option, which is edge optimize, will be come to the play. Right, let's talk about what is edge optimize API. We saw some latency issue with the regional endpoint for some client who are away from API gateway or API endpoint. With the edge optimized case, yes, still the API sits inside the particular region. So all the APIs, REST API gets created as a regional. So in this case, even for the edge optimized, yes, it's created as a regional. In this case, it's under Sydney region. But AWS do little bit of magic behind the scene. Whenever you create an edge optimized API, the AWS automatically create a CloudFront distribution endpoint, and which is pointed by the edge location. AWS has many edge location worldwide. Then you're wondering how this CloudFront and edge location helps to reduce the latency. It's very simple. The edge location are inside the backbone, AWS backbone. As you can see, it's a gray box, the edge location and the CloudFront or everything inside the AWS backbone, not inside the public internet. That means whenever a request come from client hits the edge location, thereafter request is inside the AWS backbone. That is super fast compared to the public internet. So for example, the request coming from the US has to spend a less time in a global internet. Whenever it hits closest edge location, then everything is fast. So if we move back to our regional scenario, if you go back to the regional endpoint types, the USA client spend more time to reach Sydney region throughout public internet. That's why it has a high latency. But with the edge optimized USA client, less time on a public internet. One very important thing worth to mention: usually the edge location with the CloudFront get caching out of the box. By the way, with the edge optimized scenario, you do not get caching. If you want cache functionality, you need to add a custom CloudFront separately. Again, still using the edge optimized without caching, you get a better latency throughout all over the world. The one last thing on the edge optimized, this is a bit more expensive compared to the regional endpoint type. Lastly, we are in the last endpoint type, which is a private API. As the name suggests, this type of endpoint is restricted to a specific VPC within the AWS. The public internet user cannot access this endpoint. So only the people who are in the particular VPC, that's where you can access this endpoint. But this endpoint can talk to any other public APIs which is outside the AWS, and any AWS services which is within the same account or a different account. So this is a good use case for the internet if you do not need to expose to the public, which is public internet, but still you can access inside your company network. Right, that's pretty much for today. Yes, it is a short video with less practical, more theories. Finally, please like and subscribe if you like this content. I really appreciate it. Furthermore, if you have any comment or clarification, please comment below. I will get them as needed. See you on next video.